Ayo, welcome into CHGO Bets presents CHGO Big Ten After Dark, powered by DraftKings Sportsbook.
Look at you.
America's top-rated sportsbook. It is a mouthful. I am Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. We are powered by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app today and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Again, I'm Sean Anderson. That's Cody Delmendo, my partner in degeneracy. You can follow him on Twitter at Cody_CHGO. And this being Big Ten After Dark, we are welcomed and joined. We're joined. We're going to welcome him in. But we're joined by Greg Braggs. You can follow Greg Braggs on Twitter at GBraggsJr23. And you can see it across his chest. Purdue. What happened, Greg? What happened?
Didn't.
Per don't.
Can I
Per don't win.
Can I do the James Droz TikTok? You know what I'm talking about?
No idea.
You don't know who James Droz is?
No,
oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
What happened? Yeah, no, okay.
Not talking to you guys. Not talking to you guys today.
Is this the first show where Greg Braggs has nothing to say?
I didn't lose. They did.
You guys can do it. I'm not talking. Zach Edey gets 32 points and 18 rebounds. We out-rebound them by like 20 and shoot 52% from the field, and somehow we lose that basketball game. And now I had to pay a sandwich bet to Gary. You know, he finagled me into that. Now he got a sandwich out of me.
He wants to do a sandwich bet with me when Illinois and Indiana play in a few weeks.
I just gave him $20 on Venmo, and he can get the biggest sandwich so he can eat it and shut up.
$20 is a lot for a sandwich.
Yeah,
that's
Greg,
big
you
of
got
you.
robbed there, man.
I think that's big of you.
It's like a ribeye steak sandwich.
I feel like
all the fixings.
Gary should be like, sending you a tip or something.
You don't shortchange on a bet. We said a sandwich bet.
Where are you buying
Where are you spending $20 on a sandwich?
Well, you get the meal, and you know what? It's paying it forward, right? Because I got bigger goals. That was Gary's an IU fan. It's Super Bowl week. That was Gary's Super Bowl. I'm happy for him. IU won their Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Purdue has bigger and better things. They got bigger fish to fry. So if I want to pay the karma gods and the basketball gods, I can't come with $10.
Okay.
He can get the biggest sandwich he wants. He can eat 4 sandwiches, stuff them all in his stupid Hoosier face. I'm moving on to March. Yeah, we got to play IU one more time, but I'm looking at a Big Ten regular season championship. I'm looking at a Big Ten tournament championship, and I'm looking at a Final Four and a national championship, and Gary can eat his sandwich and shut up.
Man, you're talking about 4 sandwiches. That's big. We see the large size of Stevens McStevens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Large sandwiches. Mm-hmm. Almost as large as Purdue's lead in the first half, or Indiana's lead in the first half over Purdue. 50-35. I mean, they didn't even get off the bus, Greg. I mean, did they want to try to stop TJD going to the hoop? I mean, that kid just was, he didn't break a sweat.
And you got to give him credit. He was unbelievable, especially in the first half. It's like an atomic bomb the last 2 years. In that every year I've gone there, the last 3 years, minus the year no fans were allowed. Every year that I've gone there, the first half is like an atomic bomb. It feels like that in the stadium for every single possession. And you can almost tell at halftime that actually helped Purdue, even though the score was, heavily in IU's favor, because it just brought the volume down a little bit. I mean, it's always just this amped up insanity because they let their student section in there 2.5 hours before the game start, and they just are insane. And there's this a palpable pressure, and Purdue just doesn't seem to have a good job of overcoming it at Assembly Hall. IU always plays their best when Purdue is at Assembly Hall, and Purdue always seems to be so tight. It's like Indiana. They lose to Maryland a few days before. They're playing Rutgers right now. I have no doubt they'll lose this game too. But every time Purdue comes there, they play like the best team in the country. And Purdue, being the most consistent team in the country, I'm not going to sit here and say they're above and beyond the best team in the country. I mean, they certainly have an argument to be made for it. But they're certainly the most consistent. And then when they get to IU and play at Assembly Hall, they become inconsistent. And they just had a tale of two halves. I do give Purdue a lot of credit for picking themselves off the mat and getting it down to a 1-point game, had every opportunity to win it. But, hey, you got to tip your cap to Indiana. Indiana and Illinois for, all intents and purposes for Cody. These two teams were the preseason favorites to win the Big Ten, and you're seeing both teams starting to round into form. So, this is getting to March, and, at least a few teams are starting to become what we thought they would because the rest of the Big Ten is still in shambles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only does Purdue lose, but Illinois wins, and they have a huge win over Iowa. So congrats.
Why would you
Cody.
say that? Are you joking, Sean? Why would you say
What
that?
happened?
They did not win. They lost to Iowa, Sean.
So you're giving all this shit to Greg, yet your team lost to Fran fucking McCaffrey?
Well, first off, I wasn't giving shit to Greg.
Yes,
you
you were.
started giving shit to Greg, and then I just joined in afterwards, all right?
Well, I gotta knock you down.
Okay.
Sorry.
Listen, Illinois lost by, 2 points? And that game was close the entire game. It was the best game they played since they beat Texas in the non-conference. I actually felt good after that game, as much as it pissed me off that they lost to their rival in Iowa. But whatever. I also I know Braggs will agree with me to some extent on this. And I didn't say this already, but let me start by prefacing that I'm not blaming the refs, but Tony Perkins getting 15 free throws, that's just unacceptable. And a lot of them came because Illinois was in the I was in the bonus within 12 minutes, with 12 minutes still to play in the second half. And the only reason it bothers me is because if you watch that game, the first half, the refs let them play, and then the second half, they just decided that they're going to start blowing the whistle every time down the court. You know what? Fine. There were probably some fouls in there, but the thing that bothers me the most is that the refs in all of college basketball, they just don't know how to be consistent for an entire game, and that's what it's always bothered me about them. Not blaming the refs for the reason they lost. I'm a bigger man than that. I have some integrity, okay? But that is one of the major frustrations I have from that game is because the refs – in a way, changed how that game was played if you compare the first and the second half. Now, at the end of the game, the free throw discrepancy wasn't that much different, but there were just some major calls related to what they did when it came because I was in the bonus so early in the second half that kind of made a difference. But at the end of the day, yeah, maybe Illinois shouldn't have fouled as much as they did. It is what it is, but they still only lost by 2 at Iowa, a tough place to play.
It's not a terrible loss. And they also, they got denied the Orange Crush. I was so excited to talk to you about this because I just thought it was such a funny story. It was.
It is a funny story.
And then to watch the guy that runs the Orange Crush being interviewed in front of, their stadium out in Champaign, Illinois. And his lawyers speak of, we said it was a boys and girls club, not the Boys and Girls Club. So a club that consists of boys and girls. We weren't lying. I just thought that was such a funny thing. And, that obviously is a bit of a rivalry. Nothing to hang your head on as far as the loss. And you guys didn't play poorly. It's just Iowa's starting to play a little better, albeit still.
It's just that they lost, Greg.
What's that?
It's just that they lost the game. They still, they could have won or lost. They lost.
It wouldn't hurt as much if Illinois didn't lose games earlier this season that they should have, against Penn State. It only hurts more. The Purdue game didn't hurt at all. They lost. Yeah, it sucked, but they didn't drop at all. They're still number 1 in the country, and that's because they didn't lose the games they shouldn't have here early on. And for Illinois, they'd be in the same spot. The problem is here, early on in the season or midway through, they lost some games they shouldn't have.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't feel bad about Illinois right now. I actually feel good. I sent a tweet the next day saying that I think that they could go at worst 6-2 to end of the season. Those 2 losses probably would be against Indiana and Purdue. But we'll see. I think like if I really talk myself into it, I think they could go 7-1 because I think they'll play better against Indiana the second time, even if it is on the road. But at worst, I think they can go 6-2 with the rest of their schedule and be a top 3 team in the Big Ten going into the Big Ten tournament.
And the Purdue game will be interesting because there's a very good chance that Purdue will have everything wrapped up as far as regular. Now, they do have number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament implications still at stake.
There's no way that Painter is going to
I'm not saying they are, but the mental edge of fighting for a Big Ten championship will be off the table. So all they're still fighting for is staying hot and trying to get a number 1 seed is still vitally important. So I'm not suggesting by any means that Illinois is not going to have a tough time at Mackey. Of course they will. But there is that angle of it that will be interesting. Not to say Purdue still got to do their business and wrap it up by then, but there's a very good chance that could happen.
Cody, don't ask me what the score of the Marquette UConn game is.
Okay. I won't ask you what the score is. So, like I said, so Illinois and Minnesota got postponed tonight because Minnesota got COVID, I guess, or whatever. So they're going to play, I think, next week or the week after.
I'm surprised Minnesota got COVID because, with how bad their basketball team is, you'd think that they're not spending time indoors.
Sure.
Sorry,
I don't know.
It was a practice joke.
I know.
Could be practicing or
they don't all hit
COVID
shots.
Spreads indoors.
I get the point that I was getting at, though, is that because of this is going to be the last week of the year where Illinois will have 4 days to prepare for each game they have. I think that's 4 days of rest. At least that was a tweet I was reading. So this will be the most rest that they'll have until Saturday when they host Rutgers. So it's just the stretch after this game against Rutgers going into the rest of the year. It's going to be it's going to be very stressful for me. But
and Rutgers are at IU right now playing. They're 8 minutes into the first half and they're down 13-11. But more importantly, Rutgers lost one of the key pieces to their team in Mawat Mag for the year, and he was certainly somebody that could come in and affect the game on both ends of the court, specifically defensively. So that's a big hit for a team that's 24th in the country right now. So it'll be interesting to see. And the other thing I want to say real quick before we move on to the next segment is Gary is a coward. How does he not come in? Where is he? I was told.
You even tagged him in the tweet.
He's in the chat, busting my balls, and he's not here because I paid up the sandwich bet. IU wins. He rubs my nose in the dirt all of Saturday. But the one thing I wanted to put up to him, because this is where it all started, was in the chat last week. He said, if Purdue loses, you have to admit that Trace Jackson-Davis is better than Zach Edey. And I wanted to push back. Okay, I'll give you the sandwich bet. I'll tip my cap to IU. But I am holding the line because Zach Edey proved in that game, despite the loss, that he is the best player in the country. And it's not particularly close.
I agree. I
agree, but I don't know if that guy's going to go play in the NBA. That's
who, Edey?
Yeah.
Edey will play in the NBA.
I mean,
both of them will. I just don't know how. I mean, I think Edey has a better shot of sticking over TJD. I mean, I think Edey has shown
they can't shoot.
He can't shoot, but Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Edey's been a little bit better in switches and on pick and roll. I mean, maybe he's a little bit too slow, just being 7'4", but still, you can't teach that. I mean, 7'4" on the bench. I mean, the Plumlees have had jobs for years in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a tough time, Zach Edey. He's certainly going to try to find his way to the NBA, but at the same time, as much as they switch in the NBA, they spread things out. They use every inch of the court once they cross that half-court line, and you're switching, and now all of a sudden you got to guard Kevin Durant or somebody like that. You're going to get a lot of blow-bys. So I think it's going to be really interesting Because, could he be a guy that's on the bench? Because if he could find the perfect situation, which this could be said for a lot of players that don't make it in the NBA, but if he could find the perfect situation, he certainly is productive. And the thing about it is when you get to the he'd have a tough time in the regular season, but when you get into the playoffs and you get to the NBA Finals, you find a team like that needs a back end of the bench guy that's a rim protector and can come in and get you an easy bucket underneath. That's when the game slows down. That's when the game in the NBA does start to trail back to how it was played back when I was a kid in the 90s. Everything is run and gun. Then it starts, as you get to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals and you get to the NBA Finals, that's when all of a sudden possessions become so important that teams just naturally start slowing down to make sure they get the most out of their possessions, where a guy like Zach Edey might thrive in that situation. But even then, he's going to have a tough time. So it'll be really interesting to see. You saw it last year with Kentucky's, or was it Kansas? Who was the National Player of the Year last year?
Oh, Kentucky.
Tshiebwe,
yeah.
Kentucky.
Tshiebwe, and he chose to stay. And I think Zach Edey's going to be in a similar situation, and especially for Zach, you could go to the NBA and try to live out your dream. You could also, be a legend. They're going to build you a statue potentially, depending on how you finish your career at Purdue. And that goes a long way as far as your personal legacy and how much money you can make off of that. You could try to build up what you can do in the NBA, but at the same time, he wins National Player of the Year this year, and who knows how they finish as a team. And then you double down on that for a senior year, and you have some big donor. I mean, you got some people that got money in their pockets that are Purdue alums. If they really wanted to come in and sweeten the pot and say, hey, Zach, we'll give you this much. You just stay your senior year and cement your legacy as a Purdue Boilermaker. It certainly is going to be a coin flip decision for Zach, because I think he'll have more success, obviously, staying at Purdue and dunking on 18-year-olds than going to the NBA and having to keep up with all the ball switching that goes on there.
My entire thought process is just based off the fact that, Kofi Cockburn is playing in Japan right now. So
yeah, but right. Coburn's smaller. Zach Edey's 7'4".
Exactly. And that's where
height-wise, sure.
Well, and that's a big thing.
That's a big difference. That's 6 inches
that is
taller.
Going to be the and
6'8". He was like
and the efficiency rate of Zach Edey. He is a bucket underneath. Kofi certainly is strong, dominant, can do it, but Edey is on a totally different level as far as
7 feet.
So 4 feet. and then the free throw shooting.
That's a difference
for Zach Edey. I think is a big plus for him. But I think at the end of the day, he may end up he goes and plays in China. He would literally be a he would make a lot of money. He'd be a instant celebrity out there making a ton of money. But I think, selfishly, obviously, hopefully an NIL guy comes in and sweetens the pot and can convince Zach Edey to stay one more year, because, would they continue to dominate the Big Ten scene if he does.
If the NBA isn't in his future, I think he'll stay for one more year and finish out his senior year at college. Also, too, I think the big thing, at least, asking the difference between Cockburn and Edey, you could just see in the stats. Edey blocks this year 2.2 compared to personal fouls 1.7. Cockburn always had more personal fouls than blocks, and I think that's the big thing with Edey is just that with that height, it gives you so much of an advantage to block shots cleaner, and I just think that it's so much easier to be a dominant rim protector. We see Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert can't guard anyone on the perimeter, but around the rim, he's money. So, if you are aggressive enough, I think it can play into your favor, especially if you are smart enough, which I think Edey can be. Let's take a quick break.
Sure.
You talked about tense moments. You know what's not tense? No sweat same game parlays, and you're still rolling those out with DraftKings Sportsbook. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hands with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet just $5 and win $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back. The Bulls are playing tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies down in Memphis. I am taking Ja Morant over 6.5 rebounds, Desmond Bane over 2.5 threes made, and Ayo Dosunmu over 8.5 points scored. That's at plus 425, and it is a no sweat same game parlay with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and sign up with code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. You got any no sweaters?
No, and I do not have one for tonight, no.
All right, Slay. Before we get into the Big Ten standings, I do just want to give out a little bit more bets. DraftKings does have a power hour going this week for the NFL and specifically the Super Bowl. Yesterday, you got Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders to score a rushing touchdown, boosted to plus 100. I rode with that prop. You also have right now, either team to score first, boosted to plus 150. So if you like the Chiefs to score first in the Super Bowl, you can get it boosted to plus 150. Eagles to score first at plus 150. Eagles were originally at minus 120 to score first. Chiefs at minus 110. I took the Eagles at plus 150. You're getting the bigger odds boost, right? So potentially that's the bigger value. Steven's sticking his tongue out.
Yeah, you just can't doubt Mahomes, guys. Also, I want to point out that bet is only available for 2 more hours, so you have to get on that if you want it.
It's only available for 2 more hours. He could lose a coin flip.
No, he'll win that too. It's my guy.
Obnoxious. Steven obviously is going to go take it at plus 150. Oh, he already took it. So download the app today and take advantage of DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm also taking under 32.5 points for LeBron tonight. I don't think he breaks the record against OKC. I think he doesn't do it tonight. 36 a lot to score at a game. Maybe he's really determined to knock it out, but I don't think he does it tonight. I'm taking over 24.5 points for Brandon Ingram against the Hawks. The Hawks can't guard anybody. Dayton moneyline over VCU at plus 143. I thought it was a good number. I think the Buffalo Bills beat Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan, either shows up or doesn't show up. I'll take them minus 11.5 tonight, and then under 64.5 in the first half of the Arkansas and UK game tonight. So we'll see if any of those hits. Also, I took Marquette money line. I had a free bet because same game parlay lost last night. I took Marquette on the money line at plus 160. They are currently down 30-12, but I doubled down and took them at 10-1 odds. So hey, maybe they got to come back in them, Cody.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm taking Wake Forest money line tonight against UNC. It's like an even like 1 point spread. UNC, I just don't know anymore. They were in shambles against Duke over the weekend. Wake Forest at home is pretty good. Marquette, UConn over 147.5. I did sprinkle on that. I think I took them at 3.5 when I was laying in bed last night, so that's not looking great. But I do like the over because it's the Big East and they like to score points. Georgia money line against Ole Miss because Ole Miss stinks and Georgia is due. And Murray State plus 3.5 at home against Drake. Little Missouri Valley action. Murray State's a pretty good home team, and Drake, they're a little sus on the road, so I'm taking them. And then Akron, -2. We got a powerhouse game in the MAC, Toledo and Akron. Akron undefeated at home. I'll take them -2 against Toledo. And then I'm taking Indiana, Kansas State, and Kentucky, and It's Just Nice to Win One parlay. All 3 favorites. So
best of luck. I think Indiana's currently still leading over Rutgers. So right now you're in a good spot. 27-16, Indiana leads over Rutgers. Let's get back into the Big Ten standings.
Gary Ross is here. He's here finally.
Yeah, Gary has finally graced us with his presence. He probably was too busy stuffing his face with the $20 sandwich he got out of me. And I hope it was tasty, Gary. Glad you could finally show up to the show.
For a sandwich is tasty.
Such a great supporter of what we do, Gary. Now,
Gary, drop your sandwich in the chat.
You shoot 65% from the field in the first half against Purdue, and now they're 11 of 15 against Rutgers here in the first half. So at least they finally learned to do it against somebody other than Purdue. I'm happy for you, Gary. They finally learned to play basketball. Eureka!
Can we talk about the tweet that got all everyone all up in shambles after the game, Braggs?
Oh, my tweet? Yeah, sure.
It was probably from the Braggs in the Stands account, talking about storming the court. Yeah. I saw that. I saw a lot of people quote tweeting it on Saturday.
Yeah, I poked the bear. I dove head. I did the Cody. I dove head first right into the rivalry.
I respect that. All right, and I will say that in this instance, I don't mind it because Purdue was the number 1 team. But any other time, I agree. Indiana is a blue blood, and blue bloods do not storm the court. Now, but in this instance, I didn't care.
Now, I had a ton of pushback, and I had people showing me, video of UNC once storming the court on Duke, UCLA once storming the court. So, has there been examples of blue bloods that have stormed the court? Yes. Kentucky, I guarantee Kentucky fans have never stormed the court. Go ahead and show me. But if we want to just put that to the side, and I'll defer that blue bloods have at points stormed the court. The rivalry itself between Purdue and IU certainly has changed, because show me an example before the last 2 years, this year and last year at IU, where IU has ever stormed the court for beating Purdue. There has been years where Purdue's been the better team, and IU may have beat them in those years, and IU never stormed the court. What's changed over the last 2 years, and specifically over the last 6-7 years, is Purdue's dominance over IU, and now they are also a nationally ranked team. They've just gotten to number 1 in the country for the first time in their program's history over the last 2 years. But last year they stormed the court on Purdue, and they were not currently the number 1 team in the country at the time, but they were top 5 or whatever. But IU hadn't beaten Purdue in 9 straight tries. That was a part of why there was this Messiah type moment for IU fans. And then this year, it's I don't know, that I have no problem with fans storming the court. It looks like I never got to experience that as a student. I didn't go to college, and I was never, when I was young enough to do it, I was never at a game where there was a court storming. It looks awesome. When I was at the game last year and watched IU fans storm the court, it was a cool scene to be at, even if I was on the losing end of it. But I am saying, you are deferring at that point when you do that as an IU fan base for your rivals, who they themselves have called their little brothers. I mean, this is a very Cubs versus White Sox thing that they have going on as far as their rivalry between the fan bases are concerned. And you're going to call Purdue the little brothers, but then storm the court when you beat them in a regular season game. That's fine. Have your fun. But you are changing the dynamic of how you guys have always had the upper hand as IU fans in this rivalry. In a lot of ways, you're doing that. Because I promise you, if Purdue beats IU on a game-winning buzzer beater at Mackey later this year, they will not storm the court. They will not do it. So I just think there's a mentality switch. It's a little bit of a shift in the balance of who has kind of had the upper hand. And because people will say, well, there's always been ebb and flows of who's been better, not for this long of a period of time. The only team that's ever had this long of a period of time of being the better team is IU. This is the first time in this rivalry's history where Purdue's been the better team for 8 years straight. And it's not even close. So, Gary can go crazy in the chat. You're late, and you can say anything you want, but I have the floor because they gave me a microphone here at CHGO, and you just get to cry.
I'll say this much. If Purdue wins the Big Ten regular season, please do it before Illinois comes to town, because I do not want to watch Purdue fans storm the court when they win the Big Ten on the last game of the year.
I don't think they will. I mean, maybe they will, but I honestly don't think they will.
I think winning the regular season championship is a big deal in college athletics, man. I think it's very much okay if they do that, because especially it's not like they're doing it every single year.
It seems like every fan base has done it except Kentucky. Last time Kentucky apparently has done it was 1973. So it's been a while since Kentucky's done it.
By the way, I had kids to feed. Sorry, I was late. No excuses,
Good reason.
Gary. The kids can starve. What's more important, your kids eating or tuning in for CHGO Big Ten After Dark.
I think he was feeding them sandwiches.
Yeah, I'm feeding your family right now, Gary.
I mean, you gave him at least 4 sandwiches worth of money.
Yeah,
I mean,
4 sandwiches.
You know, if Gary was smart with the Subway, he's got 4 sandwiches right now.
Yeah.
If he goes to McDonald's and goes to the dollar menu, them kids can eat for weeks. You're welcome, Gary.
For weeks.
Greg, right now Purdue has a 2.5 game lead in the Big Ten.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, tonight they're playing Rutgers, and Rutgers are the only 4-loss team in the Big Ten. I got to get it in the camera.
And there's like 6 teams that are 7-5.
Right. The rest of the Big Ten has 5 losses or more. I actually, a lot of Purdue fans won't do this, but I am because I'm a numbers guy. I am rooting for IU to win tonight, and they better not blow it. They lost to Maryland before us, and if they lose to Rutgers after us, it only proves my theory that IU's only worried about beating Purdue. Now, if they do what they're supposed to do, now that they're back in the top 20 in the country and beat Rutgers, they are helping Purdue. And they'll give us a 3-game lead on the entire Big Ten, and Purdue only has 7 games to play. So I am so for IU winning the game tonight. They've got some ugly jerseys on, but I'm rooting for them to win the game tonight.
All right, but do you feel good about Purdue winning the Big Ten this year?
Of course I do. Of course I do. I mean, how could you not? They're still in a great spot. So, they won some close ones early on. They easily could have lost. But they didn't. So that's a credit to them. And I'll give IU credit. You weren't in here, Gary, when I gave IU all their credit. They deserve their flowers. They were the tougher team. Trace Jackson-Davis had an amazing game. Coach Woodson even had some really nice plays as far as how to manipulate Zach Edey in the drop coverage, and they moved the ball very well. It was a great finish. Purdue came back and tested them a little, and they passed the test. Can't wait to see Purdue and IU face off at Mackey. I'm sure it'll be close again.
I'm looking at the standings. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I'm counting correctly, 6 teams with 7 and 5, and then after that it's 6 and 6, 5 and 7, 5 and 7, and we keep talking about how many of these teams are going to get into the NCAA tournament. I don't know anymore because
Lenardi has 8 right now.
I was going to say it's still going to be 8 or 9. It's still going to be 8.
Yeah. Now Illinois is a lot.
Look at their net rankings. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been down on this conference all year, and that it's fine. Like, I'm happy that all the 8 teams potentially could get in. It's good for the conference, whatever.
Well, the 8 teams, just to add on, Indiana 5th seed, and Joe Lenardi in the west side, 9th seed Northwestern, shout out in the west side. Also have in the east side Rutgers as a 5th seed. Iowa as a 6th seed on the east side. Also, I think it's it on that side. Then Maryland is a 7th
East
seed.
Region. You keep the east side. You keep saying the east side.
Oh, the east
region.
Side. Maryland in the Midwest region. There you go. Michigan State in the Midwest region is a 9 seed. Then 7 was Maryland as a seed. Illinois is a 6 seed in the South region, and then Purdue is the 1 seed. So
you got
basically 2 teams per.
Yeah. So
region.
The only teams that you didn't name were Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Minnesota. And we talked about Penn State being a bubble team all season. They've lost 2 in a row. Michigan State's also lost 2 in a row.
And that loss to Nebraska was brutal for Penn State. They were on a trajectory to make the tournament, and then you lose to Minga, dropping 30.
Michigan's not dead. Michigan, I think, helped themselves beating Northwestern and Ohio State, and if they are able to knock off Indiana and Rutgers, I think they got 2 games against Indiana left. I think Michigan still has a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think my yelling knocked the camera out.
No,
I don't know.
Steven is doing something.
The mouse died, so I've been trying to get a backup mouse, and we're back. By the way, I have a mouse again.
So yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if it's more than 8 teams, but I just feel bad for Penn State just because I still like them as a team. They just can't win outside of Happy Valley.
Yeah, I like their team. Obviously, as a Purdue fan, their coach is a former assistant coach under Matt Painter, Micah Shrewsbury. So I was disappointed to see him fall to Nebraska and Steph Tominga dropping 30. But I'm holding to my Northwestern will make the tournament. Mark Harmon gets so nervous because I keep saying it. He thinks I'm going to jinx them, but they beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin here the other night. That's a big win, and you can call it whatever you want, but they play defense.
They do.
Some little bit of bounce luck to their game, but at the same time, defense travels, and they play defense.
All you got to do is defend Wisconsin, and you can beat this Wisconsin team because they've really fallen off since Tyler Wall got hurt, and even though he's came back, they still can't score now. But yeah, to be able to go into Madison and win that game it's big for them in their resume. They're 5-2 on the road. Yeah, they're a scary team. And
as much as I like Tyler Wall, his numbers have significantly dropped off from last year. I think he's a talented player, like an underrated type of player, but his numbers have fallen off from his production of last year.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned Maryland a lot. They've won 4 in a row. There was a point where I thought Maryland might not even get in. They had some bad losses in there, but here they are, 7-5, tied for third in the Big Ten. They scare me. They scare me a little bit more. They definitely scare me more than Michigan. They scare me more than Michigan State, and they probably scare me a little bit more than Iowa because Maryland at least plays defense. So. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, 2-5 on the road. I don't know if. I mean, shout out to Northwestern, 5-2 on the road.
Teams aren't good on the road.
I know. I just wonder which ones are actually good, and I think that's my concern when it comes to the tournament is we just never see any of these Big Ten teams do well, and it's just can they do well outside of their home arena? And it seems like Purdue's the only team that's consistent at carrying that production to the road. I mean, even the loss to Indiana, was close by the end.
And here's the thing I'll leave you with as we start to wrap things up here, Gary. The last 2 times Indiana has beat the number 1 team in the country at Assembly Hall, both teams went on to win the national championship, and both teams had National Player of the Year. Most recently, Kentucky with Anthony Davis after they lost at IU, and the Watt shot, the Christian Watson shot to beat them at the buzzer. So, maybe some symmetry there, maybe not, but I do expect Zach Edey's game to transfer to March Madness. I mean, he's putting up 30 and 15 every single game. I'm sure there'll be one where he gets in some – he's very good about staying out of foul trouble for the most part. I'm not saying that he might not find a game where he does find himself in foul trouble, but even when he does, I mean, he still ends up getting his. I think that's going to be something. You got a guy that can drop 33 and 18 on you, and keep your team shooting around 50% from the field. Purdue's not going to miss free throws all the time like that. That was a big part of why they lost. They turned the ball over 11 times in the first half too. So, yeah, can Purdue beat themselves? 100%. It's a win or go home, one game kind of thing, but I do like Purdue's chances. The more as we get deeper in the season, their bench is really starting to come together and get comfortable with the roles. Mason Gillis had 9 threes on Wednesday night against Penn State. So
that was a week ago.
I'm just telling you.
No, I know. You don't have to tell me about it. My same game parlay lost. You already know this. I didn't know who Mason Gillis was, and now I know because he hit 9,000 threes in that game against Penn State. I mean, Fletcher Lawyer couldn't even get a shot up because Mason Gillis was being a ball hog. I don't need to hear about Mason Gillis.
Yeah. It was a
betting show at the end of the day, Braggs. Come on.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to say that Northwestern playing at Wrigley in November is great, but I think it should be a Northwestern-Illinois game every single year because that makes sense. Them playing Iowa at Wrigley in November, it's going to be the first team to 10 wins because that game is going to stink.
I wonder if the Cubs had any decision on that too, though, with the Iowa Cubs.
Who knows, man? Like I just like I like the idea of playing the game at Wrigley. I've never gone to Wrigley to watch Northwestern play there or just any football game. But, like, to me, that would be like every other year. Like, whenever Illinois is supposed to go to Northwestern and play, like, every other year, at the very least, I think that would make that game so much more entertaining or intriguing. I just don't understand why anyone would want to go to Wrigley to watch Northwestern play Iowa.
But why would anyone want to go watch Illinois and Northwestern play football?
At least it's an in-state rivalry, though.
Is it?
Well, why have Northwestern play there?
There's an actual trophy for it.
Illinois has actually been solid here. At least last year, they make more sense than
when you're asking, is it a rivalry? Right now, no, because Illinois is the good program and Northwestern has stunk for the last couple of years. But a few years before that, Northwestern was way better than what Illinois was. So basically, they're a lot like the Cubs and Sox. Neither one of them can find a way to be good at the same time.
That's fair. I just think that,
but they are technically an in-state rivalry.
And the other thing I'll add, and I said it on Twitter, is we got to get the Bears to play one more home game there. That used to be their home was Wrigley Field for a long time. And Gale Sayers' 6 touchdowns was at Wrigley Field. Those infamous pictures you see of Mike Ditka playing, that's at Wrigley Field. Get the Bears to play. And you stick it to the mayor one more time, because I'm sure it's not up to the city of Chicago. It's up to the Bears. And you can stick it to the mayor one more time. Take money out of their pocket for one game at Soldier Field. They don't own Soldier Field. Take it over to Wrigley Field and have one more Bears versus Packers at Wrigley Field. Beautiful, historic Wrigley Field.
I would love it.
Behind the clock.
It's a much easier commute for me than having to go to Soldier Field.
Chase Claypool will try to catch a touchdown in the back of the end zone, and then we'll be running into the brick wall.
They absolutely should do this one more time before they go to Arlington Heights.
They went to a football stadium for a reason, because they play football there.
What?
The reason why they left Wrigley Field was because it was a baseball stadium. They went to the football stadium because it's big enough to play football in. Wrigley's just too small.
Yeah, but now they've figured out how to play football there. Because you remember the one game they had to cancel at Wrigley when they were going to do it because they had the dimensions wrong, but then the Cubs renovated the stadium so it could fit a football game there. So
still tight.
Purdue played there 2 years ago. They've already proven they can play football there. So now that they've proven it, get the Bears there one more time before you go to Arlington Heights. It's a good idea.
And I don't care, CHGO Bears after dark.
You don't want it to happen. It should happen. They used to play there. Do it. God, I am so fired up tonight. I hate you, Gary. I hate you. Choke on that sandwich.
Illinois.
That's Greg Braggs. You can follow him on Twitter at gbraggsjr23.
I'm Cody _CHGO. Illinois by 1,000 against Rutgers on Saturday. Please, God.
Book it. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you to Ryan and Gary for hanging out with us in the chat. Ryan had a great comment, a couple comments there about Edey and his future in Europe. Also, shout out to Stephen Nicholas for producing the show. We will talk to you tomorrow for bets at 3 p.m. with Cody and I. Thank you for watching CHGO Big Ten After Dark. We'll talk to you tomorrow. One more million.
Gary.